Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Elohai Noah, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash. Just want to touch on just watching this little news insert from the Channel 4, which is a British public broadcasting service. So I just want to touch on the inflation side and just play a little bit of this. It's just news, just to sort of give everyone an idea of what's happening from a British perspective for our people in the UK, and because we know what's happening in the States, because the prices in the States are going crazy. Like, it's like $10-15 for like a tray of eggs, so you got like about 120 eggs. That's like $90. That's a heck of a lot of money, man. People. I was watching one of the elders' channels. I'm on one Gabar, and it's just crazy, man. People have got a couple of carrier bags, like a carrier bag that's like $90 or $100. That's a lot of money, just for a small amount of food, and it's going to get worse. Okay, but let's just check this out from what's happening on this side of the pond.
It's in East London's Ridley Road market that you'd expect to find a bargain, but even here, everything's on the up for customers and vendors alike.
People are scared. What happened next? Understand? Things are expensive, like 25% or 30%, but we put price more than like 10-15% up. We can't put 25%, otherwise people are running away.
Figures from the British Retail Consortium show food prices hitting a high not seen since records began in 2005. With the typical food grocery shop in December costing 13.3% more than it did a year ago, up almost 1% on November's figure. That rise was driven by fresh food, all those Christmas dinner essentials, which was up a record 15%. For so-called ambient foods like pasta and tinned goods, the rise was 11%.
Sugar, flour, bread, those are basic food. Eggs, you can't buy eggs. Even lime, you could have got a 50p lime, now it's £1. Everything is going up. Clothes and things, they're not going up because you don't need clothes, but you need food. Wages doesn't go up.
Laurel works in social care and says her wages aren't enough to make ends meet.
In the COVID time, I put my life on the line to save other people. But yet still, I get no thanks, nothing. My wages doesn't go up. My children can't find food. You used to eat 3 times a day. Now you have to limit it to 1 time a day.
Russia's war with Ukraine, more than 2,000 miles away, has been increasing food prices all over the world, with the price of animal feed, fertilizer, and energy pushing up costs for farmers and producers. Global events played out on price tags in shops across the country.
Consumers have been paying the price for these high energy costs, for the high cost of animal feed, and more. At the moment, we're seeing particularly high for cuts of meat over Christmas. Sugar rose as a result of limits on what was being exported from India. So there is this sort of perfect storm of costs at the moment that are bearing down.
Higher prices driving more and more people to food banks like this one in Tottenham. When they opened 2 years ago, they fed just 13 families. Today, they feed 1,300.
We're seeing working people, much more of the elderly people coming in.
But just as need goes up, high costs mean people are donating less.
What they used to do before was kind of like buy for themselves and buy a little bit extra in their shopping for the food bank. And we're finding that's slightly dropping off now because people are all in the squeeze now.
An extra £1.2 billion, the highest amount since 2004, was spent on credit cards before the festive period began, prompting fears people are getting into debt to fund day-to-day essentials. But this new year brings a light at the end of the tunnel. Over 2023, food prices and inflation as a whole are expected to fall. And Amelia is in the newsroom now. Amelia, you talked about a light at the end of the tunnel. What can we expect this year?
Actually, I'll let it play. Then I'll give my commentary on it. They talk about a light at the end of the tunnel. They're gonna say that. They're gonna tell you what you want to hear. Okay, but we'll touch on that in a minute.
Well, you heard earlier the Prime Minister's pledging to halve inflation this year, but it was already set to drop. So the latest figures have it above 10%, while the Independent Office for Budgetary Responsibility is predicting it should fall below 4% by the end of the year. Why? Well, globally, commodity prices for things like oil and some of the ingredients that we use to make our food are coming down. Wholesale energy prices are falling. An analysis from a firm called Cornwall Insights today suggested average household energy bills could end up being £2,800 a year. Currently, the government's keeping them artificially at £2,500, but they were expected to hit £3,000 after April, so they'll still be expensive, but less expensive than predicted. That said, they will stay stubbornly above pre-pandemic levels until the end of the decade. And what about prospects for business? Well, there's still a big question mark over the energy price guarantee for business. Now, that's the money that the government gives businesses to help with energy bills. That comes to an end in April, and today the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, met with business groups to discuss what will happen after that. Now, the Treasury told us the current scheme, which cost £18 billion, was unsustainably expensive. Business groups say they're expecting that support to halve. We should find out next week, so let's see.
Okay, so they're saying that the Prime Minister is gonna bring down prices. Okay, the fact of the matter is they're not going to bring down the prices. Okay, what they're going to do is what they're looking at is the buying patterns of all the people, especially Jake. East London is full of a lot of Jake. You saw the Benjamite woman. They're talking about the social care worker, Mrs. D'Souza. You saw, there's a lot of Jake, there's Israelite foreigners around there. I mean, there's Israelite foreigners all over London. London's pretty much a very diverse city and very brown as well. And they were looking at the buying patterns of certain groups, especially Jakes that are visible. Or people in general as well, what their buying patterns are and what they really, really, really need. And they might drop the price on that to a certain degree, but they're going to keep the prices increase, and they're going to, increase them. Then they're going to just keep increasing them slowly, 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 slowly. Luxury products like biscuits and chocolate and things like that are going to probably go up in price. Things like eggs or whatever, they might drop it by a quid or two, but it's still going to be going up in price. So, so a lot of people that, you know, so for example, this time last year or even 2 years ago, they're doing well financially or whatever. They want, thinking about this, they're sitting, chilling out during lockdown, watching Netflix, eating Pringles, claiming money that they shouldn't be claiming here in the UK and across the pond and other parts of the world, because it's all, food was cheap. Everything was okay. Now they're going to get the harsh end of the stick. Okay. And a lot of, a lot of people that have been preparing for it have been preparing. They've been storing up food, tinned goods, because tinned goods go a long way, such as tuna, which is loaf of fish, rice pudding. It may not be the cleanest or the most healthiest way to store food, but survival is survival. So if you got like, pineapple chunks, peach slices in syrup, rice pudding, tuna, maybe dried goods as well. So a lot of people are storing that up as well as having storing up water for that certain day when things really hit the fan. And so what they're doing is they initially tell you what the situation is around the world with pricing, or in the UK with pricing, but what at the same time they give you the problem and they give you the solution, which is they're saying, oh, we're going to drop the prices. The Prime Minister, the Elamite guy, is going to drop the prices. They're not going to drop the prices. Like I said, they're going to drop the prices on certain things, so-called survival things like maybe flour, maybe they may drop the prices on maybe like certain oils to fry or bake or whatever. They'll do the cheap stuff, the basic stuff. So it's going to be like kind of like World War II when they ration out food. They're going to sort of give pricing that's so-called affordable for certain goods, which is kind of like rationing to a certain degree, but you're paying for it, but it's cheaper compared to the luxury stuff like cakes, biscuits, cookies, muffins, chocolate, maybe even alcohol will stay, go up in price, you know, and but with everything else, they're just gonna, with certain so-called necessity goods, they're gonna drop in price to a certain degree. Like for example, if last year something was £20 and this year it's £25 or £35, right? They might drop it to maybe like 30 quid. So it's still high compared to last year, but it's a slightly less compared to what it was a month ago, for example. So they're playing games. This is what they're going to do. Second Ezra 16:21. Behold, victuals shall be so good, cheap upon the earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Okay? And you already seen what's happening around the world. Famine's coming. People are choosing between paying their electricity bill or eating, you know? People's wages ain't going up. You've got the Royal Mail, which is like the US Postal Service here, the equivalent of that here in the UK, where they're constantly striking, right? They want everybody back on site in certain jobs where they want to sort of create a sort of like more of a work environment, a lively work environment. But then there's always constant strikes with the trains, so people can't get there. So it's affecting business on a large scale. You got certain CEOs and presidents and of companies and managers committing suicide because they know what's coming. They know that their reign is over. When I say reign, REIGN, I believe, reign, their rulership is over. So that's the famine part. Sword, they're already fighting each other. Great confusion. Confusion is there because 1 minute they're being told one thing, then the next minute they're being told another thing. People are fed up because people have got a lot invested in this world, and especially Jake. Especially these successful YouTubers. I'm not mad at Jake, for being successful, having nice things. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as they've earned it lawfully, they're taking care of their family, their loved ones. But they get, because with Jake, when they get a bit of money, they just get so invested in that, and that's all they think about. They don't sort of pull their head out of the sand and say, you know what? Let me take a little gander. Let me take a little look around, see what's going on. So my family, am I still in good case? Let me check out the news. Let me check out geopolitics. Most importantly, let me read the scriptures. Let me watch the apostles, elders online. Because they bring out the raw truth, man. 144%. Me personally, I believe these things are gonna. It's gonna be like a snowball. It's the snowball starting to come down the hill. It's like a medium size at the moment, and by the time it gets to the end of the hill, it'll be like a huge size. And so by summer, it should be like pretty. It should be pretty raw by the summer. Maybe they'll be rolling out the charagma by then. Who knows? Let's hope so. Proceeding to Revelation 13:16. Okay. Luke 21:11. And great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines, and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven. And the great signs from heaven, they're great signs to us in a positive way when we see the chariots, but they're not so great for the heathen and the 2/3 that see it and get sort of like saying aliens, aliens, and because they believe in the BS that Esau has been portraying the so-called aliens as, when they're not aliens, they're actual so-called black men, with afros and beards and white garments that are in those chariots, man. And those are fearful sights to people that don't know. And famines and pestilences. Let's look at the definition of pestilence. I just want to make sure that. Fatal epidemic, disease, especially bubonic plague. Exactly. So, there's already so many different types of diseases that's coming. They're already talking about something, about other future lockdowns and other diseases in China and all that, and and it's only going to get worse because they're creating more and more diseases in their labs, which are going to affect people, and only the Lord knows what they're spraying out there, man. Because you hear about the elders always getting ill, taking certain herbs to counteract, to sort of like build a firewall in their body, using that term firewall, like security for the body, against uh, you know these diseases or what Esau's spraying out there in these chemtrails. So they've been doing that. And famines is coming, it's coming here. It's coming right now, you know. I was just thinking the other day, like how the world has changed, from the last 25 years, and I just realized that, when you drive around a little bit, saying, okay, yeah, there used to be a building there used to be a phone box there used to be this pub there used to be this X, Y, and Z there, and then like you realize when you drive around, man, they've been changing everything slowly around me. I didn't even realize, because you get so engrossed sometimes in certain situations, in life in general, right? And this is the same thing that they're doing right now. They're just turning up the heat. Everything's changing around you. You need that term, look around, or sometimes you got to like just, what's the term? Smell the roses or whatever. I'll use a different analogy. Sometimes you just got to pull your head out of the sand. We all get engrossed in different things, in family matters, and earning your daily bread, or going from job to job, because of the curses and all that kind of thing. You get certain pressures and stresses of life. But sometimes, when you do have that time in between, it's good to sort of look around and see what's going on. And this famine's been happening, man. And I'm seeing more and more homeless people, begging outside. A lot of them are on crack and heroin as well. So there's a lot of people that are begging for drug money. But the beautiful thing is most of them are Edomites. I sometimes think to myself, am I looking at an Israelite foreigner or not? But I can just tell through the spirit they're Edomites, man. And I just look at them and I say to myself, 25, 30 years ago, these crackers, I said, your head would be shaved right now. You'd be walking around with Dr. Martens on as a skinhead doing racist attacks against brown people. Now your devil ass is on the floor begging so you can get your fix of heroin, or what the brothers call in America heroin, on the street, or crack, cocaine, Salakia there, going all over the place again. Isaiah 13:16. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled and their wives ravished. And that's going to happen when it gets to the point of, complete climax where people are fed up. They have nothing to lose. You're basically teasing them by having goods in your house, maybe a generator, maybe the man has no woman and you've got a beautiful daughter or wife, and they gang up, with their cronies or whatever, and they rush your house, bum rush your house, and take everything. And you women are going to be a commodity, man. That's going to be traded like gold and silver, And what do men like to do after they've eaten and drank? They like to work those calories off, innit? And that's where the women come in. It's foul as it is taking somebody's wife, but some of these people are like that, And the children are going to get in the way unless they eat them, And this is just a small portion, This is just a small portion of what's about to come. A small portion of what's to come. Let's just see if we can find anything else. Let's see what's happening in Scotland.
A new year, the same problems, except this time they're worse.
There are working people come to the food bank. There are young mums, young dads come to the food bank. There are families come to the food bank.
The cost of living crisis has, for some, become too much to bear.
It's quite hard to deal with.
Soaring energy, food, and petrol prices have forced many to choose between heating and eating.
The price of everything is going up.
Have forced
Here you go again, to choose between heating and eating. This is in Scotland.
many to choose between heating and eating.
The price of everything is going up. And it's so hard to explain to kids why I'm not eating my dinner with them.
For others, the cost hike has crippled their business.
We've overcome so many hurdles to even get here, and just, I feel like I'm just getting knocked out by the big guys.
These are issues that are impacting people from different walks of life, but they're all asking the same question. What happens next? It's 9 a.m. in Kirkcaldy. The sun has barely risen and the snow is mounting. But volunteers at the local food bank have already been here for hours, preparing breakfast, lunch and dinner parcels.
We put in our parcels eggs and rolls, and we buy in fresh fruit and vegetables from our local suppliers.
The Kirkcaldy Food Bank is one of the biggest of its kind in Scotland.
So we're all checklists all done this morning.
Yeah, we noticed last night we were quite low in the pasta, but we've gone and got some, so that we managed to get that.
Oh, that's low in pasta.
I
That's
know, which is
unusual.
incredible, isn't it?
When it opened, it was only supposed to be in operation for a few months. That was 9 years ago. The charity now has 5 food banks and 143 volunteers, helping more than 3,000 people a month. But that number is constantly growing.
It's a huge demand at the moment, and the question is about how can we change that? How can we bring improvement? How can we get that safety net that did exist, which is now quite porous, back to being there, that we don't need to use food banks? Because we all know the solution is not food banks.
In some areas of the town, 3/4 of children live in poverty, whilst more than 20% of people find it almost impossible to pay their energy bills.
We know from our work that 40% of the people who come into the food bank have children in the house. So there's 40% of children that need to be looked after.
Have we got that filled up today, have we? Much as we can have.
Volunteers buy the majority of the food themselves, and most months that bill tops £18,000.
We know there's a deficit every month in what comes in financially and what goes out financially. Our fear is that we might not be able to sustain it. But those who have the levers of power need to realise that if we're not going to be here, where are people going to go to? What are you going to do? What's your plan?
What would it do to this community if you weren't here?
I think a lot of people who are on the margins at the moment and are really struggling would be pushed to even more extremes of poverty. And I don't actually know what they would do.
I think it'd be devastating, really devastating, because they get so much more help than just food. And there's just not enough money to go around.
As food banks face an uncertain future, for many businesses, the picture isn't much clearer. Food and drink prices across Scotland are rising at their fastest rate since 1977. The latest inflation figures show costs are 16.5% higher than the year before. Sarah Capaldi and her husband own and run Pantanope in Glasgow.
We literally put every penny, when I say blood, sweat and tears, it was blood, sweat and tears into this business. It financially and emotionally drained us to even get opened, but we managed it. Is that everything for you? Do you get
be worse off?
But the 1-2 punch of rising produce costs and increasing energy prices mean they could lose everything.
We look back at fruit and veg receipts from last year, our cash and carry receipts, and we're almost double. Vegetables are costing the exact same as the cheese or the meat. Everything costs the same, and it all costs too much.
A lot of people said that whilst COVID was hard, you had support, but that this feels different.
It's so strange to say COVID was less scary. People couldn't spend the money on things they usually would spend their money on, so they were spending money in coffee shops or takeaways. And we had support from the government. Do you want any sugar in the coffee?
No.
I think we need to be given a break. There's no point in me saying to customers, try and support us and use your coffee shops. Because if their bills are going up and their food's going up, they're not going to have money to spend on coffee. That's a luxury.
As well as charities and businesses, some of our most vulnerable are being hit hardest by the rising cost of living. Research from the Glasgow Disability Alliance shows that a disabled person already faces, on average, £500 of additional costs each month. And for 1 in 5 disabled people, those costs are as high as £1,000.
Hi, Alan. How are you doing? What have you been up to?
Alan has Duchenne muscular dystrophy, a wasting disease that means he has almost no mobility. Breathing machines, a mechanical mattress, specialist remote controls, a hoist and more all work not to just...
He's a person that stays in bed the majority of the time. So you've got your heating on, his telly's on, his laptop's on, and with the cost of living going up and up and up, it's just where do we go from there? Because it's a lot of money to have these sort of things on all the time.
That's not a choice for him, though, is it?
No,
it's not like you or I who could turn that down.
No. That's it's all part of Alan's care.
Does Alan get worried when he hears about the cost of things going up?
He watches the news all the time, so he's seeing what everybody's saying. So he's kind of, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to be all right?
From people paying extra to keep life-saving equipment running to single parents struggling to put food on the table, everyone is feeling the pinch.
My fuel bill's doubled. Food bill's pretty much doubled as well. Next month is going to be shocking when I get my bill through for my gas, just because I've had to have it on. I didn't want to have it on. I would rather just be cold myself, but because I've got the kids, it's a necessity.
Dean has 3 children. He says when he can get work, he takes it, but getting by is getting harder.
You're always worried about where the next meal's coming from, or what you're going to do with your next payment, how you're going to branch out over the next 3 to 4 weeks. And it's just it seems impossible. £50 shop 3 months ago was almost about £100, £150 now. Am I sitting down with the kids having a meal, cooking for everybody, rather than just cooking for them? Because they're always like, why are you not eating? And I'll just tell them I'm having my dinner when they go to bed, just so they don't feel bad that I'm not eating.
In terms of the first 6 months of 2023, if things don't calm down, how close will that push families like yours to the brink?
I think it'll happen pretty fast. I don't think it'll, even the 6 months, people probably won't even last that long, to be honest. I don't say families are going to cope. I sit down and have to tell myself sometimes there's nothing else I can do just now. Literally nothing else I can do.
The ongoing day-to-day reality of the cost of living is that it continues to stretch resources and test communities. For some, turning to neighbours or support services feels like the only way forward. But the question is, how long can people at the sharp end of this crisis keep going?
Everybody who's involved in here do it because they want to stand alongside the ones who are the most vulnerable, the most poorest in society. If only just to say that we stand beside you and that you're not forgotten about.
I just feel that choosing between heating and food in the UK in 2023 just shouldn't be a thing. I feel like no one cares. I really feel like no one cares.
You're beat every morning you get up, you're beat when you go to bed, It's just hard to keep a strong face in front of the kids, it really is.
There you go. So they asked him, what's it going to be like in 6 months' time? And he goes, I don't think we even make it to 6 months. Even the first half of 2023. They're choosing between the heating and eating. People are going to reach a boiling point, especially with Esau. You know, they're gonna bring the caveman out of them. You know, and it's definitely gonna be uh, a heck of a year this year. You know, Lord willing, this thing speeds up, and this place falls yesterday. You know what I'm trying to say? So yeah, so just a little brief insight there into what's happening in London and Scotland, both sides of the spectrum there, and it ain't looking good. Looking good for the hopeful elect, but not looking good for everybody else that you know wants Esau's queendom to go on and on and on. And you know, stress levels are increasing for Edomites. You know, everyone in general, but you know, and prices are increasing. You know, a lot of these people are out of work. Um, as well as Jake as well. They're catching some of the hell Jake's been going through. You know, for generations. And look how they are. You know. But anyway, all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, and double honors to the apostles, elders, bishops, prophets of Great Millstone. Shalom.